What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles submitted to the channel by MaxiPad, who's running Macargo, Appleton, and Shadow Glalie. Now this is in the Open Great League. I know we don't have access to the Open Great League anymore, however these three Pokemon can be used in the Great League Remix Cup, so I don't think it matters too much. Of course, Shadow Glalie gained access to Rollout this season, which is a huge improvement in terms of its pacing to its charge attacks. With Avalanche and Shadow Ball, this thing hits like an absolute truck, and it can get there very fast now. Now this trainer sent in nearly 45 minutes of gameplay, which is definitely too long for just the one team, so I've taken roughly the first half of the battles, and I don't know if maybe some of the better battles were towards the end after they gotten used to the team, so apologies if that is the case, but either way, we still got some very entertaining battles throughout this video. Now before we get into the question of the day, I want to announce that this week's subscriber challenge is now live, and you can see it on screen, and you'll be happy to hear the point system is much easier to follow compared to last week's challenge. You can, however, still participate in last week's challenge as it didn't get enough entries, so I will leave both submission forms in the description of this video and in future videos that I upload this week. Now with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. The fast move rollout has finally been distributed to a lot of different Pokemon throughout the game, however there is still only one stab rollout user in Pokemon Go, which is Alolan Golem, so I want to know what rock type Pokemon do you think should gain access to rollout next season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so into the first battle lead, Macargo into Shadow Swampert, Nightmare lead. We're going to be safe swapping into Glalie. This also isn't that ideal for us because we do have Rollout as the fast move. Rollout is going to hit for resisted damage. The opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon before swapping into a Shadow Wall Rain, maybe looking to catch the Avalanche. Nice idea, but it backfires as we hold on to the energy, fire off the Shadow Ball, and this is just going to be an Icicle Spear. Of course, this is resisted damage. We're able to tank it, commit to the Rollout farm down, coming out with a ton of loaded energy. Now the opponent comes back in with Altaria. Of course, Avalanche going to hit for double super effective. We're able to grab the first shield and reach another Avalanche. This should be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and the opponent is going to commit both shields. However, they do get the Dragon Breath farm down. We can now come in with Macargo. The opponent swaps back into Shadow Swampert, and of course, remember they did gain access to Sludge this season, but the opponent just goes for a Hydro Cannon that is double resisted. I can only think the reason for them going for Hydro Cannon is if they just don't have Sludge, and they go for it again. So clearly must still be on Earthquake here. We're now going to overfarm, fire off the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb, of course, will easily get the KO from that range. They come back in with the Altaria. We commit to the Dragon Pulse, and we just barely get there in time. Of course, Dragon Pulse, super effective. It nearly gets the KO. We come in with Macargo, and actually, we don't need to shield anything. Sky Attack doesn't do much damage. Incinerate gets the farm down, and we're able to take that game. So go into the next battle, we see Annihilate in the lead. Huge core breaker to the team. We're actually going to swap into our Shadow Glalie. I don't know about this because, of course, we're taking huge damage from these counters. The opponent fires off the Rage Fist, but we are just barely able to tank that and fire off an Avalanche. Avalanche gonna be no shielded. It does huge damage, and it puts them into very comfortable Astonish farm down range for the Appleton. The opponent comes in with more Peko, and we are, of course, going to double resist the electric type damage. The opponent, despite that, still goes for the Aura Wheel, and that does about maybe 30% of our HP, actually a little bit more damage than I was expecting, but either way, we can now fire off another Seed Bomb, grab the first shield from the opponent, and at this point, we are going to commit our first shield. Now, the opponent fires off the Aura Wheel there. Aura Wheel, of course, would have been the Dark typing, so it would have got the KO, and honestly, now that they're double boosted, the next Aura Wheel probably will take us out here, so at this point, it just depends what they have in the back. Do we want to shield here, preserve the HP? We are going to shield as the opponent goes for the Aura Wheel once again. We can now overfarm by a single Astonish, fire off the Seed Bomb here. Seed Bomb gets the KO, and they had a Swampert in the back, so it pays off double shielding, as of course, we can now fire off the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb, easy one-shot up against the Swampert, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, Macargo into Aromatisse. So I have not seen this Pokemon in absolutely ages. Great lead for us. The opponent safe swaps into Clodsire, and this is where actually having Rollout might be a little bit of a hindrance because, of course, whilst we are getting to those charge moves a lot faster, unfortunately, we're hitting for resisted non-stab fast move damage here. And Avalanche, whilst it's a great charge move, is up against a very bulky Pokemon. It's not enough damage to get the KO. We fire off back-to-back avalanches. Second one grabs a shield from the opponent, and we are happy to match shields here. However, unfortunately, we just have no fast move pressure. I don't know if we can commit to a full rollout farm down. We're definitely just going to fire off the avalanche straight away. Avalanche grabs the final shield from the opponent, and at this point, we might also double shield here. We are going to, of course, Aromatisse in the lead. We need switch advantage, and we can maintain alignment. We tried to go for the farm down. Unfortunately, not quite able to do so. However, Avalanche gets the KO, of course, and they come in with a Bastiodon. So, of course, we come in with the Appleton. Going to be absolutely awful up against the Aromatisse. We're going to wait for the opponent to throw, and they probably will just swap out straight after this. The opponent fires off the Stone Edge. They do swap out. You can see we actually tried to swap into Magcargo immediately there. However, the switch doesn't go through, so we take one charm's worth of damage onto the Appleton. We fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb debuffs their attack there. The opponent will reach a last-second charge attack, which is a little bit frustrating. However, we will give less energy to the Bastiodon coming back in. So the opponent comes back in. We go straight for Overheat. Overheat does not do that much damage, actually, up against the Bastiodon. We, of course, debuff our attack as well, but we're one away from back-to-back Seed Bombs. Is this actually enough damage to get the KO, though? Seed Bomb, number one. It looks like it will get the KO here. We actually go for one more Astonish anyways, just to be sure. Seed Bomb gets the KO, and we're able to take that game. So going into next battle, we see Magcargo into Clodsire. So not really ideal for us, but we are going to resist the Poison Sting damage, so not the worst thing ever. And the opponent does throw before we reach an Overheat. So this, at worst case scenario, could have been a Stone Edge, but they actually bait with a Sludge Bomb. I definitely don't agree with that. We're also now baiting, firing off the Rock Tomb, and the opponent also calls the bait there. So a baiting game that neither of us are winning so far. We are now going to shield, and they do full send the Earthquake. At this point, we're now going to overfarm, farming to 100 energy. From this range, does a Rock Tomb actually get the KO? Rock Tomb barely doesn't get the KO there. We're forced to swap out, catch the charge move. The opponent actually only at the Sludge Bomb anyway, so that's okay. We probably could have stayed in with the Magcargo, but the opponent comes in with a Lantern. Now at this point, we're trying to throw on good timing here. We're going to shield this. The opponent fires off the Surf, and we're now going to farm up to 100 energy, not throwing on the best timing this time around, so never mind. I guess we weren't trying to throw on good timing. We were just farming up to 100 energy, and then firing off back-to-back charge moves. First baiting with the Avalanche, then full sending the Shadow Ball, and the opponent going to throw their charge move straight away. Now, they fire for the Surf. They're going to come in with the Appleton, and they've got a Diggersby in the back. Now, this is actually really tricky for us. We've got Astonish. Astonish is going to be double resisted, and we've got Magcargo in the back, which is, of course, going to take double super effective damage from the Scorching Sands here. So at this point, we are going to fire off the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb does about 50% of their HP. They go for another Fire Punch here, and again, we're going to go for 2 Astonishes, and then fire off the Charge Move. Really not the best Charge Move timing here, but Seed Bomb grabs the final shield, and we are able to swap and catch a double resisted Fire Punch. That is huge for us. We also have the Rock Tomb loaded. We're going to throw straight away into Lantern coming back in. Just get rid of the stupid electric fish, as Jamie Finn would call it. They come back in with the Diggersby, and we can reach a last-second Overheat here, and Overheat easily overkill. It takes out the Diggersby, and we're able to take that game. So going into next battle, Magcargo into Tinkaton. So a great lead matchup for us, of course. If they've got Bulldoze, then that's going to be quite difficult for us, as it is going to hit for double super effective damage. They say swap into Glalie. We're actually going to stay in here, shield the first charge move. I'm going to go for a Rock Tomb bait here, and of course, Rock Tomb is going to debuff their attack once again. We are now going to swap into the Appleton here. We're double resisting the fast move damage, but our switch clocks are now heavily misaligned. The opponent fires off the Rock Tomb here. We are going to fire off the Seed Bomb straight away, just to make sure we get off the charge move before they can swap out. Seed Bomb doesn't really do too much damage. They bank a ton of energy, and they swap back into Tinkaton. Now, of course, we're debuffed. This is already going to be resisted. Seed Bomb really doesn't do much damage there, and the opponent can overfarm quite considerably. At this point, we're going to no-shield. The opponent does actually bait with a Bulldoze, but not really ideal for us, as they're still able to reach another Bulldoze before we can fire off a Rock Tomb. So we shield that up. We go for Rock Tomb straight away. This is just going to debuff their attack here, meaning Bulldoze, whilst it is double super effective, it's not the best move. It's non-stab. It will not get the KO here. But the opponent is going to go for a Play Rough. That makes literally 0 sense whatsoever. Play Rough is resisted. Bulldoze, double super effective. Make it make sense. I can't. But either way, we are now going to come in with our Shadow Glalie here, and we are going to swap out, just force the opponent to throw a charge move here, which is fine with us. The opponent fires off the Rock Tomb, it gets the KO, we come back in with the Glalie, we get the farm down, and it just depends what they've got in the back. We're tapping literally everywhere on the screen right now, and the opponent comes in with a more Pekko. So again, not the best timing. It doesn't really matter in this circumstance, as Avalanche gets the one shot up against the more Pekko, and we've of course got one away from the next Avalanche. Avalanche from this range takes out the Tinkaton, and we're able to take that game. So go into next battle, Makargo into a Dusclops, so a fairly neutral matchup here. We're just going to stay in, at least initially. If the opponent swaps out, then of course we will be swapping out as well, but easily going to no-shield this first charge move. They just go straight for a Shadow Punch. Absolutely fine with us. We can now fire off the Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb, not going to do too much damage, but it does get them into the yellow health range, and it does debuff their attack. So at this point, gonna no-shield once again as they go for another Shadow Punch, and we can reach another Rock Tomb. And from this range, Rock Tomb probably gets the KO. We can actually undercharge that, but it still gets the KO anyways, and they come in with a Shadow for Alligator. Now, of course, we've got Appleton in the back, but we swap into Shadow Glalie, and we're met with a Steelix. Now, of course, Avalanche is neutral damage, but these rollouts are going to be double resisted, so zero fast move pressure whatsoever. The opponent fires off the Psychic Fangs there, debuffing our defense, and unfortunately only going to reach one more Avalanche before they fully farm us down. They do let that go through, it does big damage, and now we're going to come in with Makargo. We're just going to no-shield this. Psychic Fangs does not get the KO. We swap into Appleton straight away, and it really just depends. Are they going to full send an Ice Beam here? We're going to shield. They bait with the Hydro Cannon. They do reach another charge use straight away. This time we're no shielding, and this time it's going to be a crunch, which is very unfortunate for us. Of course, it does not get the one shot like an Ice Beam. However, it does get us incredibly low. Now remember, Appleton does at least double resist the damage from the Steelix with Thunder Fang. However, we are so low here. We go for Seed Bomb. We get the KO. Can we still get a full farm down? We're going to go for the Seed Bomb here. Seed Bomb grabs the final shield. We are going to swap. We tried to catch a charge move, but the opponent holds on to the energy. They can now fire off the Psychic Fangs, and of course, from that range, it easily takes out the Appleton, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But into next battle, we see a Shadow Typhlosion in the lead. So great lead matchup for Makargo. The opponent's going to say swap into a Shadow Giraffe Rig, and honestly, we don't have a great response here. However, these Incinerates have already got them into the yellow health range, so we no-shield this. We're going to go for the Rock Tomb straight away. Unfortunately, 5-turn Incinerate up against a 4-turn fast move. Really awkward to get like any sort of maximizing of giving away energy there, so we just throw it straight away. We come in with the Shadow Glalie, and we are going to go for 2 rollouts here, assuming the opponent probably not going to shield this, so actually not too bad timing there, as we do avoid the second confusion, and we're still able to reach another Avalanche up against the Shadow Typhlosion. The opponent does shield that, of course, maybe expecting a Shadow Ball, but either way, we grab the final shield from the opponent. We are going to shield at the last second, and they bait with a Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch is double resisted up against the Appleton, but they swap into Glalie. Now we're going straight for Seed Bomb here. Seed Bomb, not going to do too much damage there, but we throw on CMP, winning CMP, throwing before they can debuff our attack with a Rock Tomb. We're now going to massively overfarm here, swap into Makargo, and again, force the opponent to throw their energy. They go for the grass knot this time around. Don't really understand why they did that, but either way, doesn't really matter. We can fire off the Seed Bomb here. Seed Bomb from this range gets the KO, and the opponent has a charge reloaded, but it's just going to be a Thunder Punch. And like I mentioned, it's double resisted. We're able to hang on, and we can just full send the Dragon Pulse here. Dragon Pulse easily gets the KO from that range, and we're able to take that game. So going into next battle, Makargo into a Drapion. Now, pretty awkward matchup for us. We are going to resist the fast move damage. However, Aquatail going to hit for double super effective. So we are going to probably, no, I was going to say, we're probably going to shield the first move. We do not shield the first move. We can tank it. However, if we're going for Rock Tomb here and we plan on shielding, it probably makes most sense to shield the first move here. But either way, we're going to shield the next move instead. Aquatail, of course, would get the KO from that range. We can now go for Rock Tomb number 2. And Rock Tomb probably does get the KO from this range. Let's see, the opponent no shields, and it does take them out. Now they come in with a Azumarill, of course, getting the bubble farm down. We come in with the Appleton, of course, Ice Beam going to hit for double super effective damage, so we are going to definitely need to shield this. And the opponent swaps into a Charger Bug. So of course, we are once again double resisting the fast move damage, double resisting a lot of fast move damage throughout these battles here. We are going to go for the Dragon Pulse. We then go for one Astonish, and then try to swap and catch the next move onto our Shadow Glalie. Unfortunately, the opponent does not throw straight away, but it doesn't really matter here. We have banked a Seed Bomb on the Appleton. They go for the Exeter. We are going straight for Avalanche. We need to throw immediately here. Avalanche is going to get the KO, and if the opponent commits to a full farm down, we will be able to reach a Shadow Ball, and this will easily put them into range where a Seed Bomb gets the KO. So the opponent, they can go for the farm down, they can come out with an Ice Beam loaded, but it doesn't matter. Appleton bank the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb from this range takes out Azu, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Makar go into a Kanto Marowak, so definitely not ideal for us. We're going to be safe swapping into Shadow Glalie, hoping the opponent will be swapping out here, because unfortunately, once again, Roller up against a Ground-type Pokemon is going to be resisted. We let the Bone Club go through, the opponent swaps, they catch onto a Dust Noir. Very risky there, as if we did go for one extra rollout, we could have full sent the Shadow Ball, but the opponent on Hex, and we are going to shield this up. They go for an Ominous Wind, which is very surprising. We come out with the Charge Move loaded, and we're actually going to go for a Blind Shadow Ball this time around. The opponent comes back in with the Marowak, but of course, they're going to shield, expecting an Avalanche, and now we've got the alignment we need. We can come in with the Appleton, and we can definitely just no-shield this first Charge Move. The opponent baits with a Bone Club, very unnecessary there. We can now just go and full send the Seed Bomb straight away. Seed Bomb is going to get the final shield from the opponent. They swap into a Shadow Mamoswine. What the heck is that? They've got double Mud Slap, ABA, but the Incinerate damage also gets them incredibly low, to the point where we can just safely shield up the Avalanche, come out, I believe, 1 or 2 away from a Seed Bomb, and this should be game over, as the opponent does go for the Rock Slide this time around, but because they baited the first time, it's not enough damage. We can go for the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb gets the KO there, and we're able to take that game. So go into the next battle, we see Makar go into Azumarill. Awful matchup for us. Going to be safe swapping into that Shadow Glalie, and the opponent is going to stay in here. Eventually swapping into a Registeel, but giving us a huge energy advantage. So we're going to go for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does just under half their HP there, but these rollouts are starting to add up. We've got them into the yellow health range here. We are going to shield as they go for the Focus Blast, and now we're actually going to bait with an Avalanche. We've seen already Shadow Ball does quite a lot of damage here, so the opponent does shield, and now we can full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball number 2 is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and at this point, we can probably shield this and flip switch advantage. However, do we need to do this? Because, of course, they've got Azumarill. Ice Beam, we've already known, is going to do a lot of damage up against the Appleton, but we double shield. Shadow Ball does flip switch advantage, and they come in with a Clodsire, which doesn't make an awful lot of sense either, as now we can go for an Avalanche. An Avalanche gonna do huge damage there up against the Clodsire. They're forced to throw a Charge Move here to get rid of the Glalie. So, of course, all shields down. Stone Edge gets the KO there. We can come in with our Makargo, and let's see, the opponent is going to fire for Charge Move, but I believe this is not enough energy for the Earthquake. The opponent goes for a Stone Edge there. They swap back into Azu, but they snipe with the Charge Move. But again, this is just going to be a resisted move. It's the Ice Beam. We're able to tank it, and now this is actually huge for us. We can go for Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb doesn't do much damage, but it debuffs their attack, and whilst Ice Beam is double super effective, this should now allow Appleton to tank this move. Ice Beam, you can see, does huge damage, but we tank it with ease, and of course these bubbles, they're double resisted. They are of course debuffed as well. Seed Bomb gets the KO there. We can Astonish, farm down the Clodsire, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, Makargo into Talonflame. Dream lead for us. The opponent is going to have to swap out of this matchup. Apparently not. No, they finally realized they have to get out, but that is huge for us because now we can go straight for the Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb, of course, going to debuff their attack. We can come in with the Appleton, and we can just no-shield whatever they throw. They're debuffed. It's not going to do too much damage here. They go for the Shadow Punch. We get the Astonish farm down. If they come back in with the Talonflame, we can just commit to a Dragon Pulse here. And Dragon Pulse, not the best charge move, but it would do decent damage in this matchup, so the opponent actually uses a shield. At this point, the opponent going to go for a Flame Charge there, boosting up their attack. We come back in with the Makargo, and despite the fact that we resist everything, we're actually going to shield at the last second. Maybe expecting a Brave Bird, it is just a fly, however. We can now go for the Rock Tomb as they swap and catch the move onto Blastoise. So we're going to bank some energy, come in with our Shadow Glalie, and they are debuffed once again, so we're going to no-shield. They go for a Skull Bash there, which does big damage, but it's going to also boost up their defense. So Avalanche is resisted damage. Will this get the KO here? We're able to reach another Avalanche before they fully farm us down. And Avalanche does get the KO up against the Blastoise. They come back in with the Talonflame, and now this should be game over for the opponent. We can just safely no shield. We know they don't have Brave Bird. They go for Fly, and just for the sake of it, we're going for the Overheat BM, and from this range, even resisted, Overheat gets the KO up against the Talonflame, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we see a Jellicent in the lead, so awful matchup for us. We're actually going to stay in initially, not really sure about that, but we swap eventually into our Shadow Glalie, and the opponent responds with a Alolan Marowak, and we are going for a very risky bait here. We've got the Shadow Ball loaded, and the opponent actually calls that. We could have just gone for the Shadow Ball and got the one-shot there, but unfortunately, now we're forced to go for another Avalanche. We do at least grab a shield advantage, and the opponent doesn't commit to the full farm down. That is quite huge for us. But either way, Bone Club gets the KO, and we will take a super effective, well, double super effective Bone Club here. However, we need to save our shields because, of course, Jellicent does have access to Surf, and that stab is going to do a lot more damage than a Bone Club. But at this point, we're committing to a full Incinerate. Farm down, Bone Club grabs the shield, and they snipe with the Jellicent. Really smart play on the opponent's end there. They go for the Surf, grabbing our final shield. So at this point, we've got 100 energy. We're going to fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb debuffs their attack. It does substantial damage. We can go for Rock Tomb number 2, and we do grab the final shield back from the opponent. Now, this Jellicent is not going to be on Ice Beam, which is very fortunate for us. We can go for the full Astonish farm down, coming out close to the Seed Bomb. Actually, we do have a Seed Bomb loaded, and the opponent tries to catch the Charge Move there. It backfires as we hold on to the energy, and now we've got back-to-back Seed Bombs. First Seed Bomb going to deal decent damage there. We don't throw the next one straight away. Kind of interesting, just because they are going to debuff our attack with the Rock Tomb, but that's okay. We can reach back-to-back Seed Bombs here up against Glalie. Seed Bomb is going to get them low. We actually swap out there, and we are going to clear the debuff. I don't think that was necessary, but either way, Rock Tomb gets the KO. We can now go for the final Seed Bomb, and certainly from this range, Seed Bomb will be enough damage to take out Glalie, and we're able to take that game. So we got into the final battle of this video, leading into a Shadow Grumpig. So a bit awkward for us. Of course, we've got two Pokemon that are going to be weak to Dynamic Punch. So we're going to stay in with the Shadow Magcargo. We are going to shield the first charge move, as they do just go straight for that Dynamic Punch, and then they swap into a Whiscash. Not really sure why we're throwing a move here. I guess we just didn't react in time. Rock Tomb does debuff their attack there. We actually bank another Rock Tomb, so I guess maybe that was the play there. But either way, kind of strange. Of course, if they got Blizzard, it's still going to one-shot us. But they go for Scald. That is double resisted, and their debuff. What on earth are they thinking here? We go for Seed Bomb. We could have definitely overfarmed so much more there than what we did. But either way, they come back in with the Grumpig. They try to catch a charge move there. It doesn't work out for us, and we can now overfarm. We go for Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb is going to be shielded by the Sableye. We can then swap, go for that combo play with the Magcargo, firing off the Rock Tomb. Realizing Magcargo not going to be that great up against the Grumpig, which does have a Dynamic Punch loaded. They go for Foul Play. That actually doesn't get the KO since we debuffed them, and it gives them more farm. But we can now come in with the Shadow Glalie. Gonna no shield here as they are debuffed. Return does huge damage though. They swap back into Grumpig, and we can reach an Avalanche. And at this point, it's going to be game over. The opponent tries to commit to a farm down there. We can now just come in with the Appleton, reach a Seed Bomb up against this Sableye, and from this range, Seed Bomb takes out the Sableye, and we're able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.